Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, what a terrible night for a curse. Of the moon, it's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how's it going?
It's going great.
It's going great, you say?
Yeah. I don't really have anything more than that. It's
Great.
just
I wanted to bring up very briefly, I had lunch at Jersey Mike's today, a sandwich from Jersey Mike's, and they say, would you like it Mike's way?
like you know what that means.
Well, first of all, like, come on, decode it for me, guys. I don't work here. I don't know what Mike's way means. But also, it's extra vinegar and oil and like salt and Parmesan or something.
Yeah, I think it's
So
oregano. It's oregano.
Oregano, that's right.
Yeah, I know what Mike's way is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Mike's way is good. It should sort of be the default.
It is. That's why they asked, do you want a Mike's way? Because it has like onion, tomato, lettuce, throw on that like
I feel like it's not a sandwich if you're not doing it Mike's way. Then, by their definition, it's too much oil. Is my
it
my
is a
problem with
lot of oil.
Like vinegar, great. All the rest of it adds to the flavor. Oil, like, just makes my sandwich oily.
Well, even like the vinegar, because they are generous with it.
Yes.
And so your bread can get soggy very quickly.
So I'm just saying, A, explain Mike's way to me. B, maybe let's practice some moderation. Mark, before we get into our conversation today, which is going to be talking about Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon, we need people's help, and we are running out of time to solicit that help. We need, well, two things, right? We need two things from people. One is we would love for you to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It helps us be seen, and it feeds our enormous egos, which are insatiable. They need to have 5-star reviews, or we get cranky with each other. But also, we would love for you to participate in our best starter Pokemon conversation. Mark and I can only really name 2 Pokemon together, right?
Right.
Right. I got Eevee.
I got Pikachu.
There we go. That's it. That's all we know. When one of those is a starter. So we need your help determining who is the best, and if you like, who is the worst starting Pokemon. You can email that and your reasoning to Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. We've gotten some submissions already, and I love how seriously people take it, and the methods by which they are determining who is best and who is worst makes me very happy.
Try to get these in probably by Sunday, let's say.
Let's say Sunday at the latest. Then that's only 3 days if you're listening to this the day it comes out, which of course you are. So you don't have a lot of time to participate in this conversation. It's going to be great. Mark, are you ready to get into it and discuss Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon?
Absolutely.
Okay, so first things first, Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon is a sort of companion game to Bloodstained, which is a game by the Castlevania creator that is still not out yet, but this companion game, which was a stretch goal from the Kickstarter campaign, is out, but not on all platforms just yet. Although by the time that this releases, it'll probably be out on more platforms. There was a little bit of there were some difficulties with the rollout on every platform. So it came out on Switch and PC day one, but some of the other, like the 3DS version, is delayed to the 31st, which is today. And some other platforms are just getting it a little bit later. Game will cost you $10 if you didn't kickstart the original Bloodstained. And I'll give it away at the top here, totally worth your $10.
Yeah, absolutely. Is this a prequel to Ritual of the Night? It seems like it is, seemingly, right? Like the way it ends.
So, sort of. Maybe.
Okay.
Because you can play through the game a second time on what's called Nightmare Mode. Where, have you done this?
No.
Have you started it?
Yeah, so I should say I've only played in like the regular mode.
Yeah.
And I just beat it once with like the 4 characters.
Right. So you can play it again in Nightmare Mode, where your main character, first of all, you start with the other 3 characters, and your main character is dead or in like the demon dimension or whatever, and you're like out to rescue him.
Oh, okay.
So it may be a sequel to its or a prequel to itself. And further playthroughs of this game may net other ways to play the game. So like I think in beating the game the first time that there is still a bunch of game left in there. So let's talk about what this game is, Mark. So it's like Castlevania 3 is probably the best analog
Mm-hmm.
on NES. So it looks and sounds an awful lot like a 8-bit Nintendo game.
And like structurally, it is exactly what you'd expect from a old school Castlevania game.
Yeah, exactly. You have your base weapon that you can use as much as you want. You collect sub weapons that you push a different button to use, and it uses up a sort of I don't even know what they call it, like your weapon meter or something like that.
Yeah, I think they just called like weapon points.
Yeah, maybe. And then you get more weapon points by breaking open little candelabras that are all over the place, or enemies drop them, or whatever. And so as you're going through this game, we've said Castlevania like 1,000 times, but it is like exactly like that in aesthetics too. That you are fighting monsters in a castle. You get on a ghostly train at one point. And like every enemy that you fought in Castlevania, there is a non-Castlevania equivalent of
Right,
in this
including
game.
those terrible Medusa heads.
Here's the thing about those terrible Medusa heads. I hate them in Castlevania. In Bloodstained,
Not so bad.
not so bad, and it's because they don't knock you back. There's no knockback damage or no like animation in this game. You get hit, and your character doesn't fly back like 2 body lengths.
Oh, only if you're playing in casual.
Oh, is that true?
Yes.
So I've been playing in casual.
Yeah, if you're which is fine. If you're because did you have lives either, or did you have infinite lives?
I had infinite lives.
Oh, okay, so yes, you're playing
Yeah.
in casual. If you play on the regular mode, there is knockback.
Oh, I don't
Yes.
know how I feel about that.
It makes it way more annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well then I'm still on the fence about these Medusa heads. Okay, so yes, this is an option that the game grants you right from the beginning, which is casual mode or veteran mode. Obviously, you went with veteran, and
Veteran's just like
yeah.
like if you have played a lot of Castlevania games, or if you're like prepared for the punishment that these like Medusa heads, which I'm not. This game took me forever to beat. I put a lot of time into it.
Yeah.
Because it I was dying left and right, like getting hit by stuff, and
Yeah.
the worst enemy for me this time was those little like frogs that move super fast.
Oh yeah, the frogs. You have to use the
Hate
wizard
those.
for it.
I hate the with like the
Yeah, with this little shield thing.
yeah.
Okay, so we're dancing around one of the game's core mechanics,
Oh,
which
right.
I do think sets it apart from like other Castlevania games, or even like the idea of a Castlevania remake. Is that as you're playing through the first 3 levels, you recruit 3 other characters, and your base guy is like he has a sword and he's got his own set of sub weapons.
And it's like such a small difference. But I like that the first character in this game has a sword and not like the whip that you would expect.
yeah,
The second character has the
that's
whip.
right. The second character has the
and
whip.
she's the better character to play with.
Because she also has a higher vertical jump.
Uh-huh.
The highest of all of them. So the character that you start as, his name is Zangetsu, and the first character that you encounter is Miriam. Miriam is the whip wielder.
She's just more athletic in general. Like she can slide on the ground,
That's right.
and she has like the whip, which is super useful.
It's
and
got
she can
better
jump higher.
range.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And that slide will help you access areas of the map that like other characters can't get to because they can't crawl.
Which is the other fun. Metroid can't crawl.
Why can't Metroid crawl?
That's the other fundamental difference between this game and Castlevania and the old school Castlevanias is it kind of incorporates the branching paths of later Castlevania games into this one. So there are multiple areas you can go to in a certain level. Like you'll be walking and there's like a dead like skeleton that's pointing in a certain direction.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the fastest way through the level, but maybe you don't have the character that will let you access that part of the map. Then
Right.
there are alternate paths that in one playthrough you won't see everything.
Yeah, and not just the right character, but sometimes they need to have the right sub weapon too in order to access different areas. Such as with the third character, his name is Alfred. He's an old man wizard. So all of his sub weapons are like spells, right? And the one that he has kind of by default is a shield that we were referencing earlier, which is all these like little dots that go around him, and they will protect him from a swarm of like insect things that are tearing up the final level of this game. But it'll also just like deal damage to those crazy frog things that Mark couldn't get away from. But so like there are areas where like to access a room, you have to have this shield up so you can walk through it. Kind of cool. Once you throw the shield up, you can switch your character to another character on the fly, and that character will still have that shield.
Whoa! Did
you
not know
this?
that.
Yeah, it's also true of Zangetsu's. He's got a move that like makes him stronger. It makes like kind of
Is that
fire.
the like flame thing?
Yeah.
I did not get what that was.
It makes his sword hit, I think, 3 times as strong as it is normally.
Oh.
But so you can turn that on, you can activate that power and then switch over to Miriam and then whip guys with triple strength.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's a game changer.
And then Alfred's other sub weapons, which I think are cool. He's got, in my mind, the coolest sub weapons. He's got this big like freeze ray, which just like turns enemies into ice.
In my mind, it was like a giant like ice dagger.
Yeah,
that like froze everything. There's one like level in the game where there's lots of lava, and if you have that sub weapon equipped, you can like turn it. You can turn the lava to ice and then walk on the lava and like break it and like get to like a 1-up or whatever.
Yeah.
I use that a bunch on like boss battles and stuff.
Yeah, it's a great way to just like turn the enemy into ice, and then Alfred can just walk over there and like smack him, and then the whole thing shatters. Or anyone can shatter that.
But he like the game is fairly balanced in that he has the least amount of health.
Yes,
because his spells are fairly powerful.
Right, but I mean, if you're putting him in each of these characters has their own health bar, and when they die, you don't get to use them anymore until you get a game over and have to continue. Should we get to the last character?
Yeah.
So the last character is Gebel.
I don't know how you're supposed to say it.
Gebel. He's a vampire. So naturally, his attack is like he throws bats.
I think they're supposed to be just like powers of the night.
Okay, sure.
Like it's like 3 little like manifestations of it.
He gestures dramatically, and these 3 little bullets fly like up in the little arc and then disappear. Which means that he is vulnerable to things coming at him from below, but he is well equipped to attack things above him, which no one else in this game is, except for some of Miriam's sub weapons. But he can also turn into a bat and fly far distances, and also squeeze into little holes.
Yeah, so that's his only like secondary ability, is being able to fly into a bat. And you lose like 1 weapon point for every like second that he is transformed.
Or if you attack as a bat, that'll also eat up more weapon points.
Yes. The thing that is nice about him then is that the boxes that would usually give you sub weapons for the other characters will always give you like 5 weapon points.
Yeah.
And so if you're like, no, you're about to go into a boss battle and you just need weapon points, then you can turn into him, and then every box will give you weapon points. And so it's just
like a thing of 10 weapon points.
Yeah, and like the character switching thing, like not only is it cool for the different abilities and like the different traversal options, but it's also interesting because it does change the way that you are playing the game. You don't really want to just like pick one and go with it, because like Patrick said, like once you die as that character or you lose that health bar, then
he's gone.
You will still play. You will still play as the other 3 until all 4 are dead, and then you lose a life. But what that means is that you might just end up with like Alfred, and you're like, I'm not gonna be able to beat this boss as Alfred. So what you really want to do is be like juggling characters. So and some of the bosses, at least for me, the way I got through them was that sort of like juggling of abilities.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, I'm going to like freeze them with Alfred, and then I'm going to switch over to Miriam and throw her like 3 daggers like special into the air.
Her 3 dagger sub weapon is my favorite.
And it's that sort of like juggling that gets you through. That was the only way I could make it through some of these bosses.
Yeah, and I mean, it is really neat how the various bosses will. It seems so simple, where you're like, okay, I have a character, they have 1 move, 1 sub weapon, and maybe something sort of special they can do, like slide. And then like how taking that and turning it into 4 characters and they all have different sub weapons that they get at different times of the game. And the game is actually pretty smart about like giving you the more appropriate sub weapon for whatever part you're about to undertake. That like it feels like a fairly complex like just fighting system. The last boss for me was a sort of fun game of like just popping Alfred in to like use his sub weapon a bunch of times and then like switch out the other characters to like survive the onslaught as it's about to come, and then back to Alfred, like farm some weapon points. It all felt very like cool and involved in like you needed to actually figure out what you were doing and not just like have good twitchy reflexes.
How did you feel aesthetically about the bosses? My one like feeling was that a lot of them, especially the early ones, felt different than the rest of the world. Like some of them were a little more like
yeah, tell me what you mean by that.
steampunky maybe
Sure, yeah.
than I was expecting. I feel like the later ones fit into that like Castlevania, fit into that like mold a little bit better.
Yeah.
The one I'm specifically thinking of is there's the big like rich skeleton dude with like the stacks of coin.
Rich
And
Uncle Skeleton.
Yes, and to me he felt very much like a cosplay character and not really someone appropriate for Castlevania.
That's interesting. We talked about this, I think, on a show last week. But I've just been playing the Disney Afternoon collection. And I did have the thought in my head that like, oh, this is a DuckTales boss, because he's just like shuffling gold coins around.
Or that like electric bird, like what?
Yeah.
I didn't really see how that fit in.
Yeah, it's less like a horror movie staple and more of like just a weird thing.
I mean, aesthetically, the electric bird was probably my favorite boss because it was like a rain level. I love rain. In video games, like he appears in like a flash of lightning. You're on the top of this ghost ship.
Yeah, it was a cool one to figure out too. So the music sounds like it. I think it aesthetically gets it right. I'm not in love with any of the music tracks in
Totally
this.
agree.
But like it sounds like exactly like Castlevania, but just like the non-memorable Castlevania tracks, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That like they got the spirit, but not necessarily just like the raw talent of it or whatever. But so yeah, it doesn't take super long to get through this thing if you're approaching it on casual,
or if you're like good at these types of games.
I'm good at these types of games. It's
or I guess like super skilled, because there are some people who it took me a while to get used to the like jump mechanic again.
Yeah.
It's not like Mario or something where you can change your direction in the air. Or
once you commit to a jump, you're committed.
And there's like a momentum to it that you have to get. Like there were definitely times where I found myself like jumping onto a platform, but like jumping with too much momentum, so I would just die. I would just like fall off.
Yeah, and no, I would do that all the time too, where like I start to jump, or like I'm trying to jump up onto a platform and I'm too far, so he just like over jumps the platform entirely. And especially if I'm using like Zangetsu or Alfred or the vampire more, and then I switch over to Miriam for a second, and then I'm like, oh, I forgot she jumps a whole body higher than everybody else.
Right.
But I mean, I would totally recommend that if people want to check out this game, to play through it on casual mode, and then if you like that, to go back and play it again on veteran. And like I said, I think there are like more secrets that this game has to offer, not just because all of the branching paths, but like there's this nightmare mode that opens up when you beat it that allows you to play it without Zangetsu. Which just means, and then there's like another question mark mode.
Yeah, I've seen. I don't know if that's the question mark mode, which sounds like the great ending time for a party. But
all of my parties end at question mark. Sometimes question mark colon question mark.
But other people have been playing it where they will just try to make it through using one specific character.
Yeah. Which you can do. I don't think there's any part where the game like forces you.
No.
Yeah.
I think it's like unless it's that mystery challenge, it's just a self-imposed challenge that people are. Because that would be hard with Alfred.
Yeah, he cannot. He is a glass cannon. I tell you what, he cannot take a punch. But yeah, so this game, I would say borderline great, right? Especially at that price. Plays great on the Switch. Trying to think of other things to say about it.
I mean, Inti Creates,
Yeah.
it just feels like they have this 8-bit, 16-bit like retro game down pat.
Yeah, and I would love. I mean, obviously, it's a lot of time and effort and money goes into making a game like this, but like something about having a game that's just a $10 thing that you can play for a couple hours, complete, and then like choose to really challenge yourself with later if you want to. That's perfect. Like that's exactly what I want out of a Castlevania style game or Mega Man style game. Arguably, even out of like a Mario style platformer. Like it's digestible. It's something I don't have to think twice about before purchasing. $10, like have it. It's fine. Yeah,
And I
love to see
appreciate
more like
games
stuff.
that I can beat and be finished with if I want to.
Yes.
Right? Like $10 for like 2 hours of fun is that's
That's
plenty
a good
for
deal.
me. That's
a
perfect.
good deal. Yeah, we saw Solo this weekend. That was $20 for 2 hours of fun.
Yeah.
So it's the same.
I appreciate digestible games more now than like a game that is going to take me 40, 60 hours. Like that's
Yes.
daunting and it doesn't sound like fun to me.
Yeah, I spent more time this weekend listening to the Dylan's Dead Heat Breakers characters talk to me than I did playing Bloodstained. And I loved every second of playing Bloodstained. And the Dylan's characters are only charming some of the time. All right, Mark, let's close out our discussion on Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. All right, we've got a little extra time here, Mark. We got an email from a listener of ours, Dustin, who listened to our E3 predictions episode, and he has some predictions of his own. Mark, what do you say we go through Dustin's predictions and just see what we think about them?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Dustin, thank you, by the way, for sending this in. If anyone would like to email in with their E3 predictions, Nintendo Cartridge Society
At gmail.com.
I don't know that we're going to have an opportunity to read them before E3 at this point.
But maybe we can do a postmortem.
Maybe we can do a postmortem. Maybe we can see how everyone was wrong. So buckle in, Mark. It's sort of a long email. We're going to go, we're broken up into bullet points here, so we're going to address bullet points. First, he starts with realistic E3 predictions. Realistic is in quotes. Prediction number 1, Metroid Prime Trilogy this year in advance of Metroid Prime 4 next year.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
Let me ask you this. If we see Metroid Prime Trilogy, does it have the Wii controls or the GameCube controls? Because currently Metroid Prime Trilogy is only available on Wii, and all 3 games have the Wii Remote and Nunchuck controls.
Yeah, maybe it's its own thing. Maybe they've completely redone the controls for the Switch. Because it doesn't really make sense to have the GameCube controls either.
Right.
So maybe
it would need to be modernized. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe they've completely redone it. They have like gyro aiming, but otherwise,
Otherwise,
it's played
something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love that. I purchased the Prime Trilogy for Wii on Wii U when they started releasing Wii games digitally on Wii U. And I couldn't get through any of those games because the pointer controls are too. It doesn't make sense. And I know my brain would hurt just as much trying to use GameCube controls on it as well. But so I think this would be a really cool thing for them to release. I think there's probably way more work that they would need to do to it to make it ready for Switch.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Especially because you also have to upres it to HD, right?
Like, you would have to.
You would have to. So that one feels like sort of a stretch to me. I also don't know that you really want to give people three other Metroid Prime games to play before 4 comes out.
Especially because it won't surprise me if 4 is not radically different, but is like a different take on Metroid Prime.
Interesting.
That isn't going to play maybe exactly like the other 3. And so
that's interesting. If that's the case, I could see an argument for doing a trilogy before that's different.
Maybe, or you're just like
giving
people setting yourself up for people to be angry.
Next prediction, Madden 2019 comes to the Switch for the first time.
I will be surprised if we get future EA Sports games on the Switch,
because FIFA was sort of a dud.
I think FIFA did it okay, um, worldwide. I think it's more just that the amount of work that
Hmm.
would go into it because all the other sports games are on Frostbite, and
Yeah, there you
I
go.
don't know that Madden is still releasing like last gen versions, which they were kind of able to use for FIFA.
Yeah, I mean, that does seem like they are probably not doing last gen versions anymore, especially because we've been hearing just a couple weeks ago a the president or no, someone at Sony saying that the PlayStation was entering the final phase of its life cycle, meaning we should expect a new generation in like 3 years or something like that.
Yeah, I just don't see EA in general bringing much to the Switch.
Right. This prediction, I believe, was written before some of the Pokemon stuff was announced, but let's just throw it out here. New Switch Pokemon game is a remake, but allows you to go through all of your previous generation region in a single game, essentially Pokemon All Stars.
I think that a lot of people would like that.
I think a lot of people would like that too.
Doesn't seem to be where the rumors are pointing. But
No, that it's probably going to be that yellow remake. Mario Maker 2 is out this year on Switch along with the online service. This would include the ability to make 3D land/world style courses along with 2D side scrolling courses. It will also come preset with a best of new 2D Mario/Luigi games from the DS, 3DS, Wii, and Wii U versions, and best of 3D land/world courses from the 3DS and Wii U for users who are not as interested in custom courses.
the only thing about Mario Maker is I've yet to see a reasonable explanation for how you turn a two-screen experience into a one-screen experience,
Yeah.
and I think that's the challenge with bringing that to the Switch.
The thing where I do think there's a workaround is we were talking about the Sushi Striker on Tuesday's episode, and you could do all of the touchscreen stuff while you are like just have the thing in front of you and then play it actually like up on the TV or just slap Joy Cons in and do it there.
Sure, and there's no rule saying that in the future Nintendo can't use the Switch in that way, but previously,
Right.
I think everything that we've seen so far from first and third parties, for the most part, there were a couple of touchscreen games only, or touchscreen only games.
Yeah.
But for the most part, Nintendo has given us parity, where it's like you can take the Switch anywhere and have the full experience.
Yeah, I mean the only place that I will push back there is Sushi Striker because like it does give you the option to play the game, which is clearly a touchscreen game with a control stick, and it's like a different experience.
Yes, but it's possible.
It is possible, yes, but I mean it could be possible in Mario Maker as well. You're just like clicking around a stick, forever,
Absolutely,
and it would
yeah.
be awful. What do you think about introducing 3D land/world style? I think that blows it up too much.
I think it's
I
too
don't know
complex.
how. Yeah, giving people creator tools in a 3D space is tough. I like to relate it to PlayStation stuff. The Little Big Planet is super easy to understand, even though it has like a million. People made some crazy stuff with that game, but it is effectively a 2D platformer where you're able to customize.
And like Mod Nation Racers,
Mm-hmm.
again, you still have the structure of a racing game
Yeah,
in which to like uh people are still fenced in a little bit by that.
yeah, and 3D space is just a little bit too. So I don't know if that fits under realistic E3 expectations. Next, Smash Brothers will be launched with a foundation set of versatile, extensive single with a sorry, set with a versatile, extensive single player campaign. So basically, this is the Subspace Emissary is coming back theory. This will be used to unlock characters and stages by completing themed set of courses in the style of the character's game. For example, in order to unlock Marth, you have to do turn-based strategy levels in order to unlock Fire Emblem characters.
I would love that. I would love having Subspace Emissary, but the levels are in the individual styles of the various franchises
Yeah.
instead of just like here's kind of like a not fun platformer.
Right. Anything, because I love the idea of the Subspace Emissary. I like seeing a big dumb cinematics that jam all these characters together, and like Kirby is fighting alongside Pit, and it's dumb, and who cares? But I like it. But yeah, it would be great to see
A fun
Those
to play version of
a
that.
fun to play version of that. Whether it's it would be weird to suddenly be in a turn-based strategy game for a little bit, and then you're like, oh, now you can play as Lucina. Great. Um, but I think there's probably some happy medium there of like just make the game fun, and that'll be that. What do you think the likelihood of a story mode or a campaign mode being a bigger part of this game?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's where I want them to put their efforts.
yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, it's weird. Like recent examples don't really suggest that that's what they're because there's that mode in the 3DS version that is like a single player thing where you're like run around a map beating up guys, but it's not fun. Um, and then I think the Wii U version like did away with that just in favor of weird little like tournament and challenge modes. So I don't know. Next prediction. Nintendo may have killed the Virtual Console, but it's going to use Smash Bros. As a celebration of Nintendo's history by highlighting games from the past and releasing old games to the eShop, timed along with Smash Bros. Releases.
I, that's something you mentioned,
This is
right?
one of my predictions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that oh hey, by the way, Pit is going to be introduced to the game. Here you can now download Kid Icarus Uprising, and Kid Icarus Gods and Monsters, whatever the Game Boy one was called. But I think that's a perfect way to drum up hype for those games and those characters to just release them all at the same time.
Yep.
All right, Mark, are you ready for unlikely / crazy predictions?
These are my favorite.
All
I'm
right.
ready.
And thank you again, Dustin, for sharing these with us. New Pokemon game will feature a new set of roaming legendaries, only available in the Switch game if caught first with Pokemon Go.
Love it. Give it to me.
And maybe not that weird that because Go integration we think may actually be part of this. Next prediction, and this one has sub bullet points that themselves have sub bullet points and sub bullet points onto that. New Nintendo mobile games announced along with new peripherals. Starting with Wii Fit Mobile is released. Nintendo will revive the franchise with an app built around exercise routines, mini games, and encouraging the user to exercise, tracks physical activity, all of that stuff. New peripherals for that. Nintendo teams up with Fitbits for data tracking and augmented reality glasses that can display instructions for fitness routines while leaving your hands free for the activity. That part I don't agree with at all. But or even the Fitbit part, it doesn't seem necessary to me. But Wii Fit Mobile, not impossible. Maybe even sort of cool.
Yeah. I could totally see. Yeah, it was one I've never thought of it. Now that it's out there in the universe, I'm like, yeah, that makes total sense. Have it sync with your phone's fitness features, your like Apple Watches,
Yeah.
fitness features. Don't call it Wii Fit.
That's tough.
Call it like Nintendo Fit.
Yeah, I mean that is the one thing, right? Is that like that Wii branding? You just got to get it out of here. Like we don't believe in Wii anymore. It's gone. Super Mario Go is released on mobile. Basically running around in your reality, but it's an AR game, but it's Mario. Duck Hunt returns as a mobile game using a Labo-built rifle and augmented reality glasses mentioned above. Lean into these glasses. Also, I don't know that Labo currently plays with smartphones or mobile devices.
You know, some of these suggestions or predictions, I guess, have me thinking that Nintendo should release like a Nintendo Land type of minigame collection on the phone, because Duck Hunt probably not fun to play in like super long spurts on the phone.
Yeah.
But if it was just a short like NES remix type thing that I'm just like
tapping.
Yeah. In like 20-second spurts, that makes a lot of sense to me.
I mean, really, why not just put Duck Hunt on phones? Like, I mean, 20-second spurts, or like if you want to sit and play it for 10 minutes, like it seems perfect, right?
Yeah, I guess.
It wouldn't be the most fun or like, but just like put it out there.
Yeah.
And then there's a Track and Field series returns as a mobile game. I think this is more along the lines of the Wii Fit Mobile. So maybe there's a way to just take that name, the Track and Field, but that's also like Track and Field. That's not, no one's going to be like, yes, the old Nintendo Track and Field. And the final crazy prediction: Mario Ninja Plumber TV show, American Ninja Warrior spinoff called the Mario Ninja Plumber. Contestants will traverse courses in the Mario aesthetic and incorporate not only platforming elements but enemies that they must avoid or eliminate.
This one just makes too much sense.
It's like Legends of the Hidden Temple. No, here's the pitch. It's Legends of the Hidden Temple, but it's Legends of the
Mushroom Kingdom?
Oh, I was gonna Hyrule. What are they called in Breath of the Wild? Shrines.
Oh, shrines.
Legends of the Hidden Shrine is what it is. Thank you so much, Dustin. Those are indeed crazy predictions. I don't think any of it's going to happen. But thank you for writing in.
But that's what makes E3 so exciting.
It is.
We have no idea what's going to happen.
Look, we're all so hyped. All right, Mark, let's close this out. All right, and that's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, if you have any questions or would like to participate with us in any way, Nintendo Cartridge Society
at gmail.com. You have until Sunday to get in these Pokemon predictions.
And
by predictions, we
they're
mean
not predictions at all. We need to know who the best starting Pokemon is. You can help us determine that.
Maybe you're predicting who we think will be the starter of choice.
That may also be. What the only Pokemon that we could name who was a starter was Pikachu, right? Is it going to be Pikachu? You can send that to Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. Remember, please rate, review, subscribe on Apple Podcasts. It helps us out a lot. Follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell. The show is at Nin Cart Society. The Facebook page is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. If you like Mark and Mine's opinions, we write about comic books on ReckonPunch.com. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying, I know Mark's name. I didn't have to look it up just now. Thanks for listening.
Campfire.